When communism comes again. Those were the words spoken to the four seers by our Blessed Mother at Garabandal in 1964. When communism comes again. What exactly did she mean? And what does that mean for you and me in these times now? Join me as we dive into this prophecy together. Before we begin, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you'd like to join our Facebook group, the link is in the description box below. I would really love to keep bringing you videos like these, and I appreciate your support. Now, the threat of communism to the world came amid many apparitions of Our Lady and prophetic insight from approved mystics and saints long before the word communism existed, let alone the messages at Garabandal. In the early 1500s to 1600s, the Blessed Mother warned about the infiltration of the secret sects into the church to Mother Mariana in Quito, Ecuador. Less than 150 years later, the Masons were formed. In 1846, she appeared in La Salette, France, with a harsh dose of reality. Her message there was dire, and she did not mince words. The seers Melanie and Maximum described her as sobbing uncontrollably. Part of Our Lady's message was, quote, all civil governments would have one and the same plan, which would be to abolish and do away with every religious principle, to make way for materialism, atheism, spiritualism, and vice of all kinds. For disorder and the love of carnal pleasures will spread all over the earth. End quote. Now two short years later, Karl Marx and Frederick Engels would publish what they called the Communist Manifesto. Not many people are aware of this particular apparition, but in 1914, 3 years before the famed Fatima apparitions, our beautiful mother once again came to warn the world about the dangers of communism, this time in the Ukraine. On May 12, 1914, 2 weeks before the commencement of World War I, Our Lady appeared in a small town in Ukraine. 22 people witnessed the same apparition, not 1 or 2 or even 3, but 22, and they received the same exact message. So for all of you skeptics out there, please tell me how that is scientifically possible. What was her message? She said, quote, there will be a war. Russia will become a godless country. The Ukraine as a nation will suffer terribly for 80 years and will have to live through the world wars, but it will be free afterwards. She then appeared again in the same region on April 26, 1987 until August 15th of that same year, where this time close to 500,000 people witnessed this particular event. Now at that time, communism was in full swing. It is reported that the Soviet military and the KGB couldn't control the crowds. What was her message to the people of Ukraine then? It was one of hope and relief. She said, I have come on purpose to thank the Ukrainian people because you have suffered most for the Church of Christ in the last 70 years. I have come to comfort you and to tell you that your suffering will soon come to an end. Ukraine will become an independent state. Now, Our Lady's apparition at that time was a year after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Her message continues. She said, do not forget those who have died in the Chernobyl disaster. Chernobyl is a reminder and a sign for the whole world. Forgive your enemies. Through you and the blood of the martyrs will come the conversion of Russia. Repent and love one another. The times are coming which have been foretold as being those in the end times. See the desolation which surrounds the world, the sin, the sloth, the genocide. Pray for Russia. oppression and wars continue to occupy the minds and hearts of many people. Russia, despite everything, continues to deny my son. Russia rejects real life and continues to live in darkness. If there is not a return to Christianity in Russia, there will be a third world war. The whole world will face ruin. Now, as we know, Our Lady appeared to the 3 shepherd children of Fatima, asking for the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart. If not, then Russia will spread her errors, which are atheism and communism, throughout the world. Which, without question, that prophecy has come to pass in an unprecedented manner. A month after the miracle of the son of Fatima, which is October 13, 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution took place. Lenin and Trotsky overthrew the government and the Soviet Union was born, along with the persecution of the Ukraine. You see how it all ties in? Now on June 13, 1929, what became known as the Apparition at Tui, Sister Lucia Fatima would have a vision, which, according to Fatima.org, can also serve as a profound catechesis on the saving of the Catholic faith. It was then that Our Lady came to specifically ask for the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart. This is Sister Lucia's account of the apparition. She says, I had requested and obtained permission from my superiors and my confessor to make a holy hour from 11 p.m. to midnight from Thursday to Friday of each week. Finding myself alone one night, I knelt down near the communion rail in the middle of the chapel to recite the prayers of the angel, lying prostrate. Feeling tired, I got up and continued to recite them with my arms in the form of a cross. The only light was that of the sanctuary lamp. Suddenly, the whole chapel lit up with a supernatural light, and on the altar appeared a cross of light, which reached the ceiling. In a clearer light, on the upper part of the cross could be seen the face of a man with his body to the waist. On his chest a dove, equally luminous, and nailed to the cross the body of another man. A little below the waist of Christ on the cross, suspended in the air, could be seen a chalice and a large host, onto which some drops of blood were falling, which flowed from the face of the crucified one and from the wound in his breast. Running down over the host, these drops fell into the chalice. Under the right arm of the cross was Our Lady with her Immaculate Heart in her hand. She appeared as Our Lady of Fatima with her Immaculate Heart in her left hand, without sword or roses, but with a crown of thorns and flames. Under the left arm of the cross, in large letters like crystalline water, which flowed over the altar, forming these words, Grace and Mercy. I understood that the mystery of the Most Holy Trinity was shown to me, and I received lights about this mystery, which I am not permitted to reveal. Then Our Lady said to me, the moment has come in which God asked that the Holy Father to make, in union with all the bishops of the world, the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart, promising to save it by this means. So numerous are the souls which the justice of God condemns for sins committed against me, that I come to ask for reparation. Sacrifice yourself for this intention and pray. I rendered an account of this to my confessor, who ordered me to write down what our Lord willed to be done. Fatima.org states, we do well to consider why this particular day was chosen. We surely won't penetrate the inscrutable wisdom of God's ways, but we believe the following point forms part of the reason. First, by June 1929, the Pope and the world had seen enough of atheistic communism in Russia to know how terrible it would be if these errors were to spread throughout the whole world. Now, back on April 16, 1929, Stalin's first 5-year plan was put into effect. On May 22, 1929, Russia's constitution was modified so that all religious propaganda was declared illegal. Sunday worship was subsequently abolished. Millions had already been deported to concentration camps. The Catholic Church had been outlawed. Divorce and abortion had been embraced, and the world knew there was a reign of terror against anyone deemed as enemy of the state. Communism was also on the verge of breaking out in many European nations, as the bloody and anti-Catholic Spanish Revolution was about to prove to the whole world. In the 1950s, in front of a committee of Homeland Security, Bella Dodd, who was a former communist spy who converted to Catholicism with the help of Archbishop Fulton Sheen, admitted that in the 1930s they put 1,100 men into the priesthood in order to infiltrate the church from within. Are you understanding Our Lady's warnings as yet? Now this brings us to the apparitions at Garabandal. Now the takeaway from all of Our Lady's messages has been about the apostasy in the church and communism. Why communism? Well, she revealed to Father Gobi that the red dragon in the book of the Apocalypse, chapter 12, symbolizes communism. She said, quote, "Only the Spirit of the Lord can overcome the power and the victorious force of the huge red dragon, which in this century of yours has broken loose everywhere in a formidable way to seduce and ensnare all humanity. The huge red dragon is atheistic communism, which has spread everywhere the error of the denial and of the obstinate rejection of God. The huge red dragon is Marxist atheism, which appears with 10 horns, namely with the power of its means of communication, in order to lead humanity to disobey the 10 commandments of God, and with 7 heads, upon each of which there is a crown, signs of authority and royalty. The crowned heads indicate the nations in which atheistic communism is established and rules with the force of its ideological, political, and military power. The hugeness of the dragon clearly manifests the vastness of the territory occupied by the uncontested reign of atheistic communism. Its color is red because it uses wars and blood as instruments of its numerous conquests. So let's look at her apparitions at Garabandal. When communism comes again, everything will happen. Those were the words spoken by Our Lady to the young seers at Garabandal, where she appeared from 1961 to 1965. What did that mean? Because in those days, communism was in full swing. Most of Europe was overrun by communism. The Soviet Union was in existence, and the Berlin Wall had not fallen yet. In September of 1978, Marie Loli, one of the seers at Garabandal, would be interviewed by Father Francis Benac. This is what she stated in the interview. Marie Loli said, "In spite of continuing to see the Virgin, we saw a great multitude of people who were suffering intensely. The Blessed Virgin explained to us that this great tribulation, which was not even the chastisement, would come because a time would arrive when the church would appear to be on the point of perishing. It would pass through a terrible trial. We asked the Virgin what this great trial was called, and she told us it was communism." Father Benac asked, "Did the Blessed Virgin speak of communism?" Marie Loli replied, "Our Lady spoke several times about communism. I don't remember how many times, but she said that a time would come when it would seem that communism had mastered or engulfed the whole world. I think it was then that she told us the priests would have difficulty saying Mass and talking about God and divine things. It was all related to communism and what is going to happen in the church and to the people, because all these things are to have repercussions amongst the people. When the church suffers confusion, the people are going to suffer too. Some priests who are communists will create such confusion that people will not know right from wrong." Some priests who are communist. This confirms Bella Dodd's confession. Conchita, one of the other seers, told author Albrecht Weber in 1965, when everything would be set in motion. She said, when communism comes again, everything will happen. The author responded, "What do you mean by comes again?" She said, "Yes, when it newly comes again." "Does that mean that communism will go away before that?" Weber asked. Remember, this was in 1965. "I don't know," she said in reply. The Blessed Virgin simply said, "When communism comes again." In 1947, American author, historian, and teacher William Thomas Walsh published a book, Our Lady of Fatima, after he had the privilege of interviewing Sister Lucia. Speaking with her about Our Lady's messages in the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart, Sister Lucia states, "What Our Lady wants is that the Pope and all the bishops in the world should consecrate Russia to her Immaculate Heart on one special day. If this is done, she will convert Russia and there will be peace. If it is not done, the errors of Russia will spread through every country in the whole world." "Does this mean," Walsh then asked, "in your opinion, that every country, without exception, will be overcome by communism?" Sister Lucia answered yes. Walsh, unsure if Sister Lucia understood the question, asked again, adding, "And does this mean the United States of America too will become communist?" Where Sister Lucia responded one more time with yes. But the Blessed Mother was not only speaking figuratively when she said that the errors of Russia will spread throughout the whole world. In her last known interview, Sister Lucia told Father Alonso that God is getting ready to inflict a punishment on mankind, and he will use Russia as the instrument for the chastisements. Now, there are several other prophecies and approved apparitions that speak about Russia in these end times. But I'll close with what Our Lady revealed to Blessed Sister Elena Aiello on March 27, 1959. She said, "The rulers and the people are outside the light of God, and in particular those of Italy. The Christian family no longer exists. Rome will be punished. Russia will invade the whole earth and will plant the red flag on the dome of St. Peter." But Our Lady always gives us hope. She reminds us at Fatima that in the end her Immaculate Heart will triumph. The consecration of Russia will take place and that country will be converted, and there will be an era of peace unlike anything ever seen on this earth before. We have to continue to trust God, place our hope in Him, and keep our eyes on Him. And always to Jesus through Mary. God bless you. Thank you for listening.